name is Siddharth Chinoy, and I'm here to talk to you about the topic of artificial intelligence, and particularly about how us being intelligent beings trying to develop this technology of intelligence leads to a unique blind spot. Artificial intelligence is a technology that at present is powering about $60 billion worth of innovation in worldwide markets in the year 2021, and is poised to break the $300 billion barrier in the next 5 years. 5x growth in 5 years, and yet we face a very simple obstacle in unlocking its full potential. We really don't know how it works. The ability of humans and animals to interact with their environment is indeed remarkable. We routinely go about complex behaviors and interactions with our environment without sparing a thought. Humans and animals show a spectrum of intelligent behaviors which range from highly trained behaviors to highly intuitive and ingrained behaviors present from birth. And as far as we can tell, these are the only examples of intelligent behaviors we see in the entire universe. And this leads to a very unique quandary, where our only working definition of the term intelligence can only come from a biological perspective. This situation hinders the development of a general theory of intelligent behaviors. And as we are stuck with anecdotal definitions of terms such as intelligence, reasoning, comprehension, and cognition, and these terms end up further interplaying with other unrelated biocentric notions such as consciousness, sentience, awareness, so on and so forth. There's really no clear way for us to talk about intelligence without involving biological mechanisms at this point. And so we remain without a general and clear definition of pure intelligence. But even without a general theory of intelligence, researchers in the field of artificial intelligence have made remarkable engineering breakthroughs. The AI technologies of 2021 have far surpassed anything we could have conceived of just 10 years back in terms of ability. We only need to look at AlphaGo from Google, which defeated the #1 ranked Go player in the world, Lee Sedol. Lee Sedol is widely viewed as a prodigy in this nuanced game of Go. Another towering achievement is the training of the deep network GPT-3 by the OpenAI Foundation, which has and captures a language model which incorporates all human knowledge on the internet, all of it. GPT-3 is capable of surprising feats of creativity, such as writing original poetry and fiction, holding philosophical discussions around existentialism and free will and so on. And even some people have gotten it to write love letters to human beings from an artificial perspective. And it can do a bunch of other surprisingly creative feats that center around the notion of language. These AI systems, however, have not been developed based on fundamental insights into how intelligence operates in these scenarios, but these are merely feats of engineering. These systems were developed purely through careful tuning and intelligent hit and trial approaches. Intelligent behavior was observed as emerging in these systems as a sort of distillate when billions of micro interactions were layered together in a connectionist fashion. Now, this is not the first time in human history where we have engineered a marvel far before we had a theory to explain why it worked so well. Take the example of the invention of the steam engine 200 years ago, which the steam engine powered the industrial revolution and changed human society forever. And yet it wasn't until the laws of thermodynamics and the principles of statistical mechanics were developed over the following century that scientists could fully explain at a theoretical level why and how the steam engine works. Discovering the principles of the heat engine led to rapid improvements, and when scientists finally grasped the statistical mechanics and the theory of thermodynamics, the ramifications went far beyond building better or more efficient engines. Statistical mechanics and thermodynamics were the precursors and foreshadowed the entire last century of rapid development of modern theories of astrophysics and quantum mechanics. These theories in turn took us to the stars and placed supercomputers in our pockets. Taking the example of the steam engine, we can only wonder what kind of developments and advances might we expect over the next centuries with artificial intelligence. This is a field in which we find ourselves in a similar position again, where engineering precedes a robust theory. Okay, so let's discard the yoke of biocentrism and try to redefine intelligence away from biological notions. One key insight which helps us do this, so let me make a proposition to you. The proposition is that the human endeavor for discovering physical laws of the natural universe and the human endeavor for developing AI are opposite sides of the same coin. Let's take a look at this slide. Physics is the human program for looking at the natural order of things and coming up with models, frameworks, and mathematical relationships that have predictive power and capture the latent essence of the phenomenon that is occurring. Basically, this is natural agents interacting and experimenting with the natural environment and performing rule building. What if we extend the natural agent, natural environment combination and add other permutations that include artificial agents and artificial environments as well? We end up with the additional cases of artificial entities in artificial and natural environments. So let's take a look at all these permutations, combinations one by one. And all these entities are essentially trying to interact and experiment with their environment and build relationships with some predictive power. So many researchers believe that this insight is a general direction for the future of AI theory. If we delve a little further into these cases, we see that the distinction between natural and artificial comes from a biocentric perspective. In all cases, we are merely seeing an agent responding to its environment, which could be virtual or natural. Here lies the first unifying aspect, that which blends the distinction between naturally and artificially intelligent agents. Further, we can notice that the interface between the agent and the environment happens through an exchange of information. In the natural world, information is exchanged with the agent by the environment using thermodynamic signals and bits. And in the artificial environment, information is exchanged through virtual signals and bits. Basically, we can look at the external environment of the agent as a dynamic landscape of information. In physics, this abstraction of looking at the universe around us as an information landscape, this abstraction has been useful in discovering and teasing out many fundamental properties of exotic objects like black holes, quasars, and exotic phenomena such as the Big Bang or the heat death of the universe. These are phenomena which are otherwise unreachable and located in faraway pockets of space and time. Yet, these breakthroughs that might otherwise have eluded us for millennia to come were placed in the palm of our hands when we examined things and our external universe from an information perspective. So, if we start looking at intelligent behavior as well from the lens of information manipulation and robust rule building in information landscapes, we start arriving at a continuum of intelligence that is able to escape biocentric definitions and places us biological creatures, intelligent biological creatures, also as agents on the same scale as any other agent trying to interact with its environment. We can now arrange the zoo of intelligences on a scale of their ability to interface with the information that is encoded in their environment and their ability to manipulate it to their advantage. This is what such a scale might look like. So at the lower end of the scale lie metrics for information interfacing and decoding from the environment. In the middle lie the metrics for the ability to represent this ingested information consistently and create valid models, maps, and categorizations of this information within the agent's internal context. Beyond representation lie the metrics for reasoning, the ability to assign contextual meaning to units and groups of information, and synthesize and compose information coming from different channels or senses. Further up on the scale lies the ability to generate meaningful information and add it back to the environment, a notion captured by our familiar notions of creativity, originality, and so forth. At the top of the spectrum lie coordination metrics, such as teamwork, social organization, language, natural selection, etc. These are behaviors which require agents to interact among themselves as well as the environment. Now that we have established the relationship of intelligence with the information continuum, we can take a look under the hood of AI systems and take a look at the nuts and bolts that drive these intelligent agents. It is now an established fact that intelligent behavior is an emergent property. This means that it arises as a distillate when a large number of simple information processing units interact together in a connected way. So, under the hood, AI systems are composed of large networks and circuits of simple information processing units. These information processing units have the property that they each take small amounts of information at a time, perform a single operation on it, and pass the result to the next connected unit in sequence. The next connected unit goes on to repeat the same cycle. So, when we experiment with such circuits and networks, we have repeatedly and successfully demonstrated that these simple units, when arranged in large enough circuits, start showing non-trivial intelligent behavior, and as the number of units crosses some critical thresholds. So let's take a look at some examples. Two interesting insights emerge from assembling these units into large networks. So with reasonable tuning, and as we increase the number of processing units beyond a critical mass, we start seeing that first, the agent starts achieving non-trivial internal representation and maps of the environment. If we continue increasing the number of processing units beyond that level, we start seeing that the network quickly starts ascending into higher order behaviors on the information continuum and starts acquiring richer versions of the non-trivial latent relationships which are present in the information landscape presented to it. It can be shown through a bit of mathematics that the learning that is occurring inside these networks is, now bear with me as I present this analogy to you, the learning occurring inside these networks is the same as traveling a hyperdimensional desert kind of landscape with troughs and peaks and shifting contours and topography. And our learning agent is a traveler whose job it is to find a valley on this exotic landscape. Travel this landscape and try to find a valley. Finding this valley is the same as minimizing the gap conceptually and mathematically. This is what we have shown. That finding this valley is the same as closing the gap between the network's internal model of the phenomenon and the same phenomenon occurring in the external world. Now I'm sure you'll agree that this is basically what learning is, isn't it? Closing the gap between our internal beliefs and how the external world operates. So now, having seen the networks and circuits under the hood of capable AI systems, let's take a look at something more familiar, the human brain. The human brain is also a network of hyperconnected units, which are neurons. Right? And the brain intelligently senses, maps, models, reasons, and interacts with information from the human's natural environment. This network inside the brain consists of about 100 billion neurons behaving as simple processing units with 7,000 connections on average per neuron. This means we are looking at a network with a few 100 trillion connections carefully structured and layered into functional circuits by the process of evolution and natural selection. When we make AI systems in the lab today as engineering feats, we are performing a similar process of discovery through selection of useful networks from noisy and random ones. This is the process of iterative experimentation through a process of informed hit and trial. The strong intelligences that the humans of the future will create shall have been derived from generations of such experimentation. Or we can get a head start to all this experimentation by shifting our vantage point away from biocentric definitions of intelligent behavior. We already have a theory of how information behaves when it is exchanged and transformed. We have discovered fundamental attributes of information such as signal, noise, information entropy, sparsity of information, criticality of information, the conservation laws around information, etc. What now remains is to connect the space of AI and the definitions of intelligence to these more fundamental attributes of our universe. This shall pave the way to being able to create sophisticated and hyperconnected information processing circuits using fundamental thumb rules rather than experimentation. Just like we can build cars, planes, rockets, and spaceships today by understanding the fundamental principles of mechanics. Biocentricism is useful when we don't have firm foundations, but it limits the possibilities of all the types of exotic intelligences that could be created and will be created if we truly learned the mathematical underpinnings and laws of information in our universe. 500 years ago, Copernicus freed us from the yoke of anthropocentrism and paved the way for us to unveil the secrets hidden in the infinite dance of the heavens. Today we must strive to escape a similar blind spot by shifting our vantage point away from ourselves and away from biologically chauvinistic definitions of intelligence. This is the perspective shift that will help us unravel the greatest miracle of the universe and also our greatest blind spot, intelligence. Thank you.